I'm reading the book Monster. It's about this guy who is in prison. So he's in jail and he's writing in a script format and like a note slash like journal format about his experience and stuff in jail. So the first part of the book that I know supposed to know was the part of his like inner notes or him writing into his journal. And I like it's kind of interesting and it's like a unique format because not a lot of books are in like a story type like style, but this has a script and then after a few pages it goes into like a notes, which is it's like inner thinking and stuff like
Uh, why do you think it's written as a script?
that. I'm not really sure, but maybe because it get well the person who is in jail wrote it, so maybe he thought of it as possibly like a good way to get the full experience maybe of in jail. What to say?
And does reading it as a script like make the book feel different compared to other books you've read?
Yeah, it does because yeah, like I said, most stories I read are in a story like platform, but this is much different. But it's also a little harder to understand like each character's inner thinking, thoughts, and stuff. The only time you really get to understand that is when he writes in his personal like note that I said.
Okay, so my book is Moneyball by Michael Lewis, and it's about this guy Billy Bean and how he becomes a general manager of a team, and it kind of switches chapters, like with like a backstory about him, and then back to real time about his like it's like going through the 2001 draft. And it's going through that, and the part that I marked was on page 17, and I marked it because Billy is just he shows a lot of force towards people, and it's kind of like you wouldn't think of him like that until up to this part in the book. It's kind of like a changing point because he starts talking. He's like starts erupting and getting really mad, and then uh, he actually fires someone on the spot, and so it just kind of shows how strict he is. And yeah,
So it's about this. So is it about like a player's like life?
basically,
So how is it like formatted? Like is it like a regular story or is it I don't know, like childhood?
it's like how Michael Lewis, the author, has heard of these events. He kind of talks about. Uh, he has a few sections where it goes back to his childhood, but chapter one especially just talks about his time in high school and how he decided to become a baseball player. And then later in chapter three, it talks a bit more about that, but mostly it talks about his job with the Oakland A's as the general manager and how he got there and why he's doing it.
All right. So the second post that I posted was I marked was it was when the script was happening, and it was about just another part of the format and style that I thought was cool that the author did. So yeah, just the style was the script, and I also wonder like why he chose to do that, but maybe he wanted it to be different than other books. But yeah,
Why do you think Why do you think the uh, what is there any important events that have happened in like the script?
well, not so far, but I'm not that far into it. But it's mostly just him being in prison, like his first like reactions and like getting to know the like the reader. but I bet something will happen. But,
Is he like scared or?
yeah, he's like scared, and he's scared, but it's hard to tell like how scared he is just because most of it's been the script, and you never in a script you never really get someone's like how they're feeling. So yeah, I bet he is
And do you know why he's in jail?
for a case for murder. Yeah, for murder.
Okay. Um. Yeah. Uh. So my second sticky note is on page 7, and it's just kind of about how Billy just impressed everyone with how he played and like why people thought he was going to be the next, I don't know, best player.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because he consistently hit amazingly. He was faster than everyone. He was just the best athlete. He played football and basketball too. And like he had college scholarship to go to Stanford, and he turned that down. And during this part, you read like uh, how the person who drafted him, the team was the Mets, how the team that drafted him took him to their facility and showed him it, and they just were able to convince him to not go to college. And I just thought it was an interesting decision because he was really smart.
Do you think uh what's the player's name?
Billy.
Do you think like how did he change during the book?
He changed because during over time he changed because he realized that he was doing something that he was good at and something everyone, and he felt way too much pressure, and he was not doing something that he loved. And he loved watching baseball, and he was amazing at playing, but he knew a lot about baseball already, and he just loved the sport. So he became a general manager because he loved that part of the sport so much, and he realizes that doesn't love playing baseball, and he doesn't.
Why do you think the author decided to write about him?
I think the author Michael Lewis decided to write about him because he has a really interesting story, and also he's the general manager for one of the poorest teams in baseball. So it's not like he's facing an uphill battle, and it's not like he's the general manager of a team that has all the money he wants and he can do whatever he wants. He has to be really cautious about money, and it kind of says like throughout the book, I've seen it say a few times that he was offered many other jobs for richer baseball teams after, but he didn't take them because he likes a challenge. Okay, I think that's good.
Mm-hmm. That's good.